thought, as the pork is cooling down, so we can put it in the puff pastry, I'm gonna show you what kind of hors d'oeuvre we're gonna have with our special meal for Valentine's. Today I chose to do Bourekas, it's called, or cheese bourek. I also was going to be using puff pastry. I kept it with the same theme. So what I did here, I shredded some mozzarella cheese, and I also have feta cheese. So I have half a pound of mozzarella, half a pound of feta. I'm gonna crumble the feta into the mozzarella. I'm not gonna add any salt. I will add a tiny bit of pepper into it. And then our herb that goes in there is dill. Dill is very aromatic, has anisey, licoricey type of flavor, which complements these cheeses very well together. I'm gonna add my peppers, and I'm gonna show you the dill that I have just picked from my garden. But you can find it at any store, they sell it. And I put actually quite a bit because we really like the flavor. So I'm gonna put almost this much. I'm gonna chop it. We get rid of the stems first. And just bunch them all. Here, I'm going to show you. Just bunch them all together and just rough chop. Doesn't need to be very fine for the first round, and then we can finish it up just like that. Now this goes into the cheese mix. Make sure you get every bit of it. Nothing goes to waste. We mix a little bit, and then as a binder, so the cheeses don't float out of the puff pastry as it's baking. It will still float a little bit, but to keep them all together, we're gonna also add 1 egg. And just mix so everything is evenly combined. Now we're gonna assemble the Bourekas. I have a sheet of puff pastry. You can use, you can buy it at the supermarkets. I'm gonna use also really handy tool, which is a pizza cutter, to cut them to the right size of squares that I need for the Bourekas. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut. Now if it's an hors d'oeuvre and you want them tiny, you can make the squares smaller. If you want them a bigger, like a first meal, you can also make the squares bigger. Today I'm gonna just make it into this 2/3. So this is 1 and 3, and then into squares. Just like that. Now you take each square, you can just stretch it a tiny bit and this is the side where the flour is on, and this is the side that has no flour on. So this side tends to stick a little bit better. So make sure that the filling goes into the side that has no flour on. I'm going to take the filling, and I like to be generous in the filling because I really like the cheese a lot more than the dough. Although the dough is going to be tasting great, especially that we're going to dip it in sesame. And then I just pinch around, and to make sure that they are firmly pinched, I also take a fork, and I just go around just like that, making sure that all that is sealed. Now, if you think that you don't like too much the edges, you can trim with that same pizza roll to trim it to be nicely. Now, at this point, after you have filled all of them, what I have here is egg. So now what we do is I have egg and I have sesame seeds. The egg I'm gonna mix to make it all even. Okay, now let's get rid of this. And the way I do it is I take each one after I finished filling them, I dip it into the egg and then into the sesame seeds, and you end up with these delicious triangles of burek. Now at this point you can put them on parchment paper in something that is freezer friendly, and you can freeze them up to even 6 months. And when you really need something special to eat, or you have sudden guests, or you just feel like it, you take them out of the freezer, put them on a baking sheet, preheat the oven to 425 degrees, and make sure the oven is really, really hot, and then you put them in. They will bake for about half an hour, 35 minutes. The reason of the oven being hot is that the puff pastry is made of layers of dough that is layered with a lot of butter in between. So the butter has 20% water and 80% fat. When you have it on high heat, the water is gonna boil before the fat melts, and that is gonna push the dough up, which is gonna result in the very flaky and crispy type of shell over the cheese. And that's what we need to bake puff pastry on, or else it's gonna melt and it's gonna be a denser dough. Okay, heated the oven and baked the bourekas, and these are the results. I just wanted to show you that at times the cheese still oozes out, but that's the extra delicious part, because it becomes like fried cheese. Delicious. Enjoy!